Veer Gosai is a young South African entrepreneur and founder of Taptic, an edtech platform that helps millions of school pupils to prepare for exams by giving them access to past exam papers. His interest does not only lie in helping pupils with exam prep. He has also exposed security vulnerabilities in SASSA's grant payment system and weaknesses inside major banks. And he joins me in the studio. Hi, Veer. So nice to see you.
Very good morning. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to join you here today.
Well, before you get to your studies, I think there's something that we need to discuss is that the SASSA story. So how did you uncover fraud and the vulnerability inside South Africa's grant system? Don't tell me you hacked them.
I'll tell you what, every interview I do for the rest of my life, this will always be talked about because I think it's such a cool story. But this kind of started from my curiosity. I found that a friend of mine who I did this with had his identity stolen. And then I was like, oh, what's the odds of that? Let me check my ID number. And I found out my ID was also stolen and someone was claiming my SASSA. This is not something I tried to apply for before. And from there, I used some of my technical abilities to dig deeper. And next thing you know, I landed myself in Parliament and was presenting to the minister on my essentially data modeling findings of an anomaly in the SASSA grant system. So there were too many people who applied for the grant. But that's kind of the basic story. It combines my kind of technical ability with my social impact side to identify like a real big issue in a country's like social grant system.
So is that what led to you also helping banks to uncover their vulnerabilities?
So I would like to say that when I began my career in cybersecurity, the curiosity got the betterment of me. And I tell every South African, don't ever do what I do because you can get in big trouble, especially when you don't have permission to target specific companies. So if you are going to do that, make sure a company that you are looking at has a responsible disclosure policy, which is like guidelines set to say, hey, you're allowed to look at this. And if they don't have one, stay away completely because you can get in big trouble.
Well, I could just quickly relate here. I won't mention names. I know of a student who hacked into a school in Stellenbosch and eventually, I don't know what he did to change his marks or whatever he did, but eventually he became a tech entrepreneur in South Africa and he was backed by a big billionaire. So just that story.
Yeah,
um,
I think it's cyber's often this thing that's seen as it's very cool and you make a lot of money. No, it's dangerous. It can unfortunately if a company or government department comes after you, it's not great. And rather stay on the legal side of things always.
okay, let's talk about Taptic. And so where did the idea for essay papers come from? So what problem were you trying to solve?
I mean, Taptic predates all the SASSA cyber stuff. This is pre-AI existent. Around the end of COVID, I was writing a physical science exam in high school, and I'm from Johannesburg initially, Fourways High School, and I was finished with my physics exam, and I'm thinking about the previous night studying, and I was like, it was a terrible experience trying to find past exam papers. And at the time, I wasn't super like skilled on technical things and IT, but I had a very good Python background. But I said, I'm going to go and build a website. And that holiday, I asked my dad for $300. And I was like, hey, dad, can I register a domain and get a web hosting plan? And he was like, sure, go ahead. And I was so excited. I spent the entire holiday building essay papers, which is actually what eventually became Taptic. And after our like 10th month, we of like me building the site and it being in operation, we made like our first rand, which is like, it's a complicated process to get approved for AdSense. And a kid like me who was underage had to like get dad to do it. And then, it was complicated, but basically after 10 months, we started making a little bit of money. And that very, very first year of operation, which was 2022, we did around 10,000 people visiting the site. And I was jumping up and down. At the time, it was so many people. I could not believe it. And now we're here today where we've just crossed over 3.6 million sessions. So it's definitely grown over time.
Well, I remember how difficult it used to be to get access to exam papers. I mean, literally, if somebody's parent wasn't a teacher, I remember we bought papers from other students just to get access to old exam papers. So you're clearly filling a need. So you said, yeah. So you said you're making money. So what is the business model behind Taptic?
So at the end of the day, the first thing to cover is all the documents that we host and publish are open source and freely available to the public. And our business model is very much focused on the economies of scale principle. So we're not going to charge you R1 per paper or put a paywall there because that's actually illegal. But what we tell you is you're more than welcome to visit our site. We're always online and we generate money similar to a kind of news company or a organization like YouTube, where we put ads on our site through Google AdSense. And that's how we generate most of our revenue. And that's what funds the product. That's what pays our staff, funds marketing. And that's the full business model.
Sure. So no subscription fees or anything.
So we've looked at it at offering maybe a more premium product, whether there's an AI integration or whether we have like personalized videos, but we don't believe there should be a subscription model for this. The only reason we can operate at such a scale and impact so many lives is because we don't have a paywall. And as a matter of fact, one of the big internal arguments we always have all the time is actually turning on, like blocking people who have ad block. So if you visit our site and you have ad block, we don't let you visit. But funny enough, 60% of our traffic is like people with ad block on. And we say, okay, like, should we block 60% of people visiting our site? And we're like, no, they're still students, right? They maybe installed a browser extension or something, but we believe that it doesn't matter your circumstances. We don't care. We just want you to get access to whatever you want quickest.
So how do you plan to expand, or do you plan to bring, other services in?
So we're working on other services, but we've primarily targeted our expansion to cross country. So we started essay papers, right? And then we're like, let's pivot. I think if it works in South Africa, we can maybe replicate it in a foreign market. And so we went to Rwanda first, started Rwanda Papers. I know that the name is very similar. And Rwanda Papers was just as successful. And so from there, our expansion plan that we laid out a nice 5-year plan of let's target these specific countries at these specific quarters of every year. And so right now we're in 7 countries across the world, actually all in Africa. And we're very, very soon, hopefully by the end of the year, going to be in 15 countries.
Wow. So what's the feedback you're getting from students, pupils in South Africa? They call them learners.
Yeah, so I mean, we love using South African learners and actually uni students that I talk to and who have used our product in matric. And we get a lot of feedback from them of what they want to see, whether they don't like how something works or whether they want a premium product. And we get a lot of feedback, but we try and take all that feedback and combine it down every year into like these goals that we have. So we want to implement these specific features, or this specific group of students wants an additional premium paid service. And we try to funnel it in a way that's effective so that the most students are happy. Because at the end of the day, 3.6 million visits last year. If you look at our support like messages, it's hundreds of them, hundreds of students with ideas. And you'll get the odd student who's reporting bugs in the site that we have to fix. But we try and take all that feedback down and at the end of the day build something that's better than last year.
Well, you're at Stellies. How do you combine, or how do you juggle the balls, keeping it in the air of studying full time and running a growing platform?
So I mean, I'll tell you what, my weekends are not very free. I think with any founder or entrepreneur in university, your work week is going to be uni, and then you still have an additional lot of work. But also at Taptic, we're a very student-run business. There's 6 other people involved in the business, all students between Stellies and Wits, and private educational institutions in South Africa. And our team works together to perform a specific task correct. And they do it to the best of their abilities. So we have a dedicated person that does our marketing. She's great. We just like our Instagram is nearing 50,000 followers, and like we have a dedicated developer for an app that we're working on, and working on taking out of beta. We've got a dedicated developer for chatbots, and we have a team around us that really keeps this alive and keeps it going.
So are you going to stay with the platform? Because, you know, cybersecurity with AI makes it so much more complex. And is that the direction you see yourself moving into?
So I think for me personally, I'll definitely pivot to the cyberspace. I mean, I'm working on some really cool things in the cyberspace for organizations, but at the end of the day, Taptic is something successful and something that has great impact that I'll always be involved in. Whether I step down as the chief executive officer and give that up to another one of our passionate staff members and continue working from a more advisory perspective. But at the end of the day, I'll always be involved in this because of the impact it has.
So what are you studying and when are you completing your studies?
So I'm studying a Bachelor's of Science in Geoinformatics with computer science. I know the degree sounds weird, but often people are intrigued by it. Basically, it's computer science with the field of GIS specialization. So geography, information systems, and doing satellite mapping. It's very fun, in my opinion. And I have just about 1.5 years left, so I'll be class of 2027 graduated, and sorry, yeah, class of 2027 graduated. And once I'm out of uni, I guess I can do entrepreneurship full time, which would, I mean, I'd have a lot of more free time to work in the business.
How does AI impact everything you're doing on the edtech platform and with cybersecurity?
So I have a very unpopular opinion when it comes to AI. I think AI is great, and I think what AI can do is amazing. But I think specifically for a South African context is very detrimental for our students. If you take a look at a country like South Africa, 13 million out of the 21 million people under the age of 18 depend on a child support grant to live, right? And every single day you see another edtech platform, right? It's going to be this edtech platform. They're going to claim to save the country's education system for 100 Rand a month. You can get access to this AI, generate quizzes, cue cards, whatever, and they're going to save your education journey. But the truth is, it doesn't work. I've been pitched so many of those platforms. I've seen so many of those platforms. And the truth is, it doesn't truly work for South Africans, right? AI is very good at maybe doing specific tasks, but we can't give AI to a youth of a country where only 80% of grade 4 learners can read for meaning, right? So at the end of the day, it's important that when we put out AI into the wild and we give it to students, that the fundamentals of those students are proper and are effective so that they are prepared for working in an environment and finding a job in South Africa. And so what we've chosen as Taptic is we've chosen to not rush AI into our platforms, rush an AI chat support agent, because at the end of the day, we've tested all these things internally. We've built them internally, and nothing beats free ChatGPT at the end of the day. I think if you understand the maths, but you're confused with a specific question, there's no harm in going to free ChatGPT and saying, how do I solve this correctly? I'm stuck at this step. Whereas if you give AI to a student, and trust me, I used to do it, I would just give it my entire homework and say, write this entire essay I have due, or finish my math homework, because it's the easy and lazy option to do. So that's just kind of Taptic's view on AI. And if we are going to ever implement AI, we're going to do it correct, and not rush it into production.
What did you observe from South African learners or pupils? Is there a specific grade that stands out?
Yes, I mean, internally we have a very, very cool data office, and I mean, we analyze and process what we get in, and as a matter of fact, we can see exactly what grades getting used the most, what subjects, and what specific towns and cities students are coming from. And I think the biggest observation we've seen is grade 9. Specifically grade 9, because when you look at it, grade 9 has the most students in the country. So it's about 1.2 million students, I think, as of last year. But for some reason, grade 9s are some of the most lazy students in the country. And I know it's weird to say, right? How can the group with the most amount of students be the laziest? But the truth of the matter of the fact is we've seen the data. And for some reason, grade 8s are like, they just enter high school, so they're more serious about school. And grade 10 is when you pick your subject. So just because there's the most amount of people in grade 9 does not mean they're going to be the most like targeted and most interested in education learner. And so we've seen the data trend of grade 9s being the most minimum when it comes to interaction with our platform.
Wow, such fascinating views, Veer Gosai. Thank you so much.